Welcome, everybody.
Yes, welcome back. We are here with part 3 of our basic first aid in emergencies course that we're going over in these webinars here. For those of you who have been with us the last couple of days, we've gone over things like how to, or for those of you who haven't been with us these last few days, we've gone over basics such as how to treat a minor wound, a scratch, or getting punctured by something by a nail, how to deal with getting poison oak or poison ivy on yourself, things like that. So if you missed any of that, you can find recordings of these webinars on delphian.org. I think they're all listed out there. And we're going to be carrying on today with the basic first aid in emergencies course. All right. First up today, we're going to be talking about heat emergencies. If a person's body becomes overheated, too hot, this can be an emergency that requires first aid. When the body is heated, it works to keep itself cool by sweating. Sometimes a person's cooling system can be overworked and his body can lose the ability to cool itself. This causes the person to feel ill and is actually dangerous if not handled. There are 2 levels of heat emergencies. They look very different and you should know how to tell them apart. Heat exhaustion. Heat exhaustion is a heat emergency where the body's cooling system becomes badly overworked. Symptoms are a person with heat exhaustion may feel cool and his skin may feel damp, cool and kind of sticky. The face can become pale and he can have cold sweat on his forehead. The person will breathe with short, fast breaths. The pupils of his eyes will get larger than normal, and the person may have a headache or be dizzy, and they may feel sick to his stomach or he may throw up. Okay. Situation, heat exhaustion. Here's our good friend Benjamin, who has offered to stand in for the one that needs first aid today. For those of you who haven't been with us the last few days, you can see Benjamin's had a few mishaps. He had something in his eye he couldn't get out. He had a bad cut on his hand, and I forget what this was, but anyway, thank you, Benjamin. Okay, heat exhaustion. Boy, Benjamin, you're looking really overly hot there, and your skin is really kind of cool and sticky. It seems, and you're having short, shallow breaths. It seems like you're having trouble with the heat here. All right, first step. Full screen. I'm going to read through the steps, and then we'll go full screen and do them. First aid, move the person to a cool place, have him lie down, loosen his clothing, untie his shoes, remove a belt, unfasten his shirt collar. This will help cooling air reach his body. Fan the person and apply a cool wet cloth to his face, head, and neck to cool the body. If you have ice or an ice pack, you could use that to cool him down. You could also put him in a cool shower. Give sips of cool water.
Okay, let's check it out.
All right. Boy, okay, so you're getting really overheated, overworked there, Benjamin. Here, let's come over to this shady area over here.
We're going to have him lie down.
Here's the shade, right? All right, you can lie down there. All right, let's see. You got any tight clothing on? All right, your belt, let's loosen your belt.
We definitely take this bow tie off, but this isn't a real bow tie, so we can't.
Right.
But
all right, let's loosen your shoes there. Take your shoes off. Let your feet cool off there. All right. Oh boy, that's starting to feel a bit better. Oh, that's good, Benjamin. That's real good. Here we can, we're gonna fan him a bit. All right, and then we're gonna give him. Oh yeah, we've got an ice pack here. We can put that on his head, or if he feels it, like maybe he'll feel better on the neck. The neck is a good place to put this stuff. I've seen some have put ice packs under their armpits. There's a lot of blood that goes through your body under the armpits. So, if you have an extra ice pack, you can put it there and it'll help bring the body's temperature down. It's starting to feel better. That's excellent. Here, take some sips of water. Just sips, don't chug the water. Excellent. Okay. We're going to cover the second part, which is heat stroke.
Oh my God.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
If the body gets even more overheated, the cooling system can break down completely, so the body can no longer cool itself at all. This is called heat stroke. It can happen when a person is out in the hot sun for a long time. Doing a lot of exercise or work in hot weather can also cause heat stroke. The symptoms: like heat exhaustion, breathing is fast and short. The person may feel sick to his stomach or throw up. But with heat stroke, the person may not just be dizzy or have a headache. They can have a very bad headache, feel so dizzy that he seems confused and anxious, or he may even be unconscious. The heartbeat is faster than normal. The face becomes red and very hot, and the person may stop sweating even in the heat. A person's body temperature gets very high, making this heat emergency a life and death matter because the body's organs can stop working when they are too hot. This is something, if someone's really hot, it's hot outside, and they stop sweating, that's a really bad sign. The body needs to be sweating in order to cool the body down. The sweat gets on your skin and then the sweat evaporates, and that takes heat away from your body. Sweating is a very natural thing to keep your body cooled down. It can be pretty uncomfortable to be hot and sticky from your sweat, but that's your body doing its best to pull heat away. So if you are out of sweat, you're out of time. Get help. Okay, so situation: heat stroke. First aid steps are: quickly move the person to a cool location. If it is not possible to get indoors, you might get him to an air-conditioned car or even into a shady spot. Have the person lie down with his head and shoulders raised up a bit. Have the person, especially his head and neck, cool the person, especially his head and neck, with water or ice packs. Cover him with dripping wet towels or cloths, keeping the coverings cool by dipping them in cold water or putting cold water on them now and then, and get medical attention fast. Okay, so let's say Benjamin was out there and it's 105 degrees, and he's been out there and he's been working, he's been making his fort, and he's just not been paying attention to how hot he's getting. And all of a sudden his head is pounding, he's really sick, feeling sick, like he's gonna throw up, he's dizzy, and his skin is cool and clammy, and he's just not even sweating anymore. Okay, Benjamin. All right, back to the shady area. We don't have anything to cover him with. There's no houses or anything out here where we are, but we have our car. Okay, let's get him into the car. Crank up that air conditioning. All right. Let's see. We got some ice packs in the back of the car. Yes, we do. Okay, we're gonna ice pack this guy. If we have towels,
these are little towels. But we can pretend that these are dripping wet, cool towels.
Let's pretend that they're big towels. Yes. All right, go dip it in the creek that's running by outside the car. Obviously, we're making up a scenario, but if you're near your house and you can bring them inside and you have a bunch of supplies in there like towels and running water, then it makes this a lot easier.
Yeah.
While we're doing this, we're picking up the phone. We're gonna call 911. We're like, our friend is having heat stroke. We need help. All right, Benjamin. Oh, poor buddy. Okay.
Hang in there.
Hang in there. Don't worry, you're about to get really cold. Okay. Let's pop it into the Q&A box here. A bunch of people saying hi and hello. Hello, good morning, everyone. All right. Isaiah, if this happens, do you need gloves? Thank you for catching us on that. So in this situation, I'm not too concerned about gloves. If you have gloves and you can put them on, great. But what we're dealing with here, there's not blood. But if you ever have concern about coming into contact with someone who may be sick or experiencing a medical emergency, and you have gloves, it's great to use them.
Yeah.
We do forget to put them on every single time that we're doing a demonstration here, and I hope that doesn't set a bad example for everyone. All right, Ariana asks, if you have heat exhaustion, how come you would have cold sweat, etc.?
That's a really good question.
It's a really good question.
Can you answer that?
Yeah, your body's working extra hard to try to cool your body off. It's like, please just stay cool. It's really pumping that stuff out, but it's getting to the end of its ability to keep things under control. It's kind of freaking out, is the best way that I can describe it. Why do you just take sips? They might already be feeling sick to their stomach, but if you chug a whole bunch of water, it can sometimes react badly in your stomach, or it might cause your body to want to throw up. If all of a sudden your stomach balloons with a whole bunch of water and you're just chugging. Taking sips, it takes that coolness of that water and it spreads it out over a little bit of time, and it doesn't overload your stomach.
What if you do not have cloth or an ice pack? You guys have really, really good questions.
Yeah, Milo coming in with the hard questions. Use what you can. Shade, any kind of shaded place, any place that's cooler than the surrounding area, that's where you want to go. You know, if you have like branches that you can fan him with, if you have, you know, anything around that you can fan him with, just to keep that cool air moving on to his body, or even if it's hotter and it's moving across his body, moving air is going to cool him down much quicker than still air, because that air is going to move. Some of his body heat is going to go into the air, and the air is going to go away, taking that extra body heat with it, which is why you feel cooler when you have a fan on you, or if I'm doing this to Remy. Remy, do you feel a little bit
I do. It's actually
now?
quite pleasant.
Yeah. Oh, here.
Thanks.
Go ahead. You can return the favor. You can pay me.
Sorry.
All right. Violet asks, "What if you're in a desert and there's no shade?" That's a tough question. If you're going to be going hiking through the desert, you would definitely want to plan ahead. Make sure that you have supplies and stuff. If you can find anything like a rock or a little dip in the ground that you can get in that might provide some shade, or, you know, worst case scenario, you take your, like a piece of clothing, a jacket or a overshirt or something, and you hold it over them to just make your own shade. Stand between them and the sun. Yeah. Can you use your fridge if you have no ice pack or a cloth? Isaiah, good question. Yeah, you can take items from the fridge or from the freezer and use them as an ice pack. Remy, yesterday, one of the examples was like a bag of frozen peas or frozen corn from the freezer. Yep. You can also take like if you get a washcloth or a towel, something wet, and you throw it in the freezer for 5 minutes, it's going to get cold real quick, and you can toss it on your friend. All right.
This is a good question. Is there a difference between dehydration and heat stroke? Definitely. Yeah. So dehydration is just generally when your body is lacking water. You need more water because your body needs water regularly to survive. But heat stroke can happen, from my understanding, whether your dehydration is normal or not. It's more of an intense,
it's
kind of an immediate overload, right? Yeah. Whereas dehydration would be more of a gradual thing that you would start to feel kind of hour by hour, like, well, I'm really thirsty. And then it's a more gradual process where heat stroke will come on more intensively and more immediately in a short time.
Yeah. And it's very possible that both of those things are happening at once.
Yeah.
And that the dehydration, D meaning like away or none, and hydrate meaning, you know, having water in your body, basically, having water within. It could be that those things are happening at the same time. And the dehydration would definitely not help make the heat stroke any better. Yeah. Heat rises. So should that person stay low to the ground? Great question. Yeah, that's one reason for it. Also because you want to rest the person. What's going on with heat stroke or with heat exhaustion is they're already overworked. So even standing, like, okay, don't do that work. Just sit down, lay down, take it easy.
Yeah. The dizziness, especially with the heat stroke, but even with heat exhaustion, can be very real. Like they could be standing there and you can actually see somebody kind of swaying because their body is no longer strong enough in that moment to hold them up. So yeah. Definitely lie them down immediately.
Sophie with a really good question. What if you're in a place that's really humid? I get that. I lived in Florida for a few years. It's really humid there. It's very different than getting hot in Oregon in the summer, because it's very dry here in Oregon in the summer. Um, with that much humidity, and humidity is just big, there's a lot of water in the air. When you sweat, you get sweat on your skin, and then that sweat evaporates into the air and it cools you off. If the air is already super wet, like it is in Florida in the summer, you'll notice that your sweat doesn't dry as quickly. It's harder for that sweat to go away, which means it's harder for your body to get rid of that extra heat. So you're going to need to help the body out a little bit, getting a cool towel on them and kind of helping supercharge your body's ability to get rid of the heat. The more humid it is, the more difficult it might be to handle heat stroke or heat exhaustion. So just keep in mind that it might be a little bit more difficult. You can still do it. Ariana says, freeze wet sponges. That works. Great idea. Yeah. Isaiah asks, how long will the symptoms last? So that will depend on the situation. How bad is it for this person? How quickly can they rebound from it? How quickly and how much did you do to assist their body with the cooling process? I don't have a lot of personal experience on this one. I could guess and say, maybe a few hours at the most if you're really doing, for heat exhaustion, like hopefully you can handle it and it can be done in a couple of hours with the worst of the symptoms being gone, and maybe even a few minutes if you really rest and get them to relax. I would not want to overwork this person. Heat stroke, I cannot stress enough that you get medical help immediately for that one. I can't tell you how long those symptoms will last. I can just tell you it's a really bad sign. Yeah. Okay. All right, we're going to do just a couple more questions, and we're going to move on to our next section, which is cold emergencies. So poor Benjamin here, he's about to get really cold. All right. Isaiah, how long do symptoms last? Okay, we talked about that. Milo, would pouring cold water on their head help? Yes, definitely, very much. And it would probably feel great to the guy. Yeah. Is there something called a brain stroke? Gayatri, yes, there is. That's a very different thing from heat stroke. So we're not going to really talk about brain strokes in here. It's a very, very different medical condition that happens within the skull, within a person's brain. All right. What if you don't have a phone to get help? Hopefully you have a few people there and you can send one person to go get help, run to the nearest to the nearest adult or the nearest person who might have a phone, or the nearest house. Be like, help, there's an emergency. I need to call 911. Can I use your phone? All right. Let's say, I had another meeting at the same time, so I missed the beginning. Can I get a copy of the recording? Emmett, yes. So my understanding is that all these webinars we're doing this week, and we're going to be continuing next week as well. There will be recordings of these all available. If it's not explained in the follow-up email that you get after today's lesson, then we're going to be sending out emails in the next few days with updates, like here's the upcoming schedule, and here's where you can catch the last ones that we did. We would love for as many people to see this as possible and to watch it as many times as you want. All right. Remy, let's talk about cold emergencies.
Okay, let's do it.
There we go.
All right, cold emergencies. If you go outside in cold weather for very long and are not dressed warmly enough, your body can lose a lot of heat. This can be dangerous to the important organs of your body, such as the heart, lungs, liver, and kidneys. The area of your body where these organs are located is called your body core, because the core of something is the center or inside. In cold weather, your body tries to keep its core warm by keeping more blood in the center of the body. This lessens the blood supply to the hands, feet, and outer body parts. When this happens, a person's ears, nose, fingers, or feet can become very cold and feel numb. So, frostbite. When a person's toes, fingers, nose, or ears become very cold, they can hurt. If they get even colder, they can go numb. You guys know, just want to make sure, numb means you can't feel it. So there's no sensation there like they usually would be. If they continue to get colder still, the blood and tissue can freeze and the skin turn pale. This is called frostbite. Usually when this happens, the person is not aware of it because he has lost feeling in that body part. If these cold body parts are not warmed up soon, they can be seriously damaged. Okay, situation. A finger or toe is frozen from cold. There is no feeling and there are pale or white patches on the fingers or toes because of the freezing. So move the person into a warm place. Thaw or warm up the frostbitten part of the body by putting it in a warm, not hot, running water or against someone's warm body, or by wrapping the body part in a warm blanket or sleeping bag. Do not rub or massage the frozen skin. That may cause further injury. If the fingers or toes are injured from being frozen, the person should exercise them once they are warmed up by gently bending the fingers or toes. A person should not walk on feet that have been frostbitten. And finally, get medical attention. Okay, so let's get some frostbite.
Oh, poor Benjamin. Okay.
So let's say he's been out, he went for a walk and then it started snowing. He went to see his friend up at the North Pole and then he came back and his toes are a little bit frostbitten. So we're gonna move him into a warm place. We'll say this is we've got a fire right here and he's warming up. Okay, so we're gonna thaw or warm the frostbitten body part by putting it in warm, not hot water. So
right. We have our invisible imaginary sink right here.
right. And we're gonna make sure to dribble it in warm water. Now we don't do hot because it's not like when you get in the shower or you turn the sink on and it's too hot and you go, because it burns a little bit. It's way more serious than that. The skin has actually lost blood, so it's starting to really freeze. And if it freezes too much, then it's frozen and it's gone. So this is why when you do it too hot, the skin is actually too cold that it can have a bad effect. And instead of warming it up, it just makes it worse. So that's why you do it in just warm water. And then little by little, you have to get it back up to the normal temperature. So yeah, we got his feet in this warm water. And if we don't have that, we can wrap him up. We don't have a sleeping bag. What if we had a blanket or something?
I have my coat.
Thank you, James. See, this is the kind of on-the-ground problem solving you need to have in these first aid situations. So we're gonna wrap up his feet in this coat. Okay.
All right, Benjamin.
And we're not gonna rub this area.
Oh yeah, I was just patting his feet. Don't do that. Again, he's lost feeling in there. I mean, pain is a very useful signal. It means that something is wrong. It's like when you're in, you see in movies, there's like a guy flying a spaceship and there's these red warning lights blinking like, hey, there's this problem over here. That's what pain is to the body. It's simply a warning signal that something's gone wrong and it needs your attention. Those warning signals aren't going to happen on a super cold, super frostbitten area of the body. So you got to be gentle there. He can't feel if there's something happening that's going to damage him.
Right. Okay. And as they start to warm up a little bit, he's going to exercise his toes by wiggling them just little by little. Yeah. And then obviously we're going to call and we're going to get him some medical help at this point.
Yeah. Hello, doctor.
Yeah. And we're going to make sure he doesn't walk anywhere until he's fully good to go on his feet.
All right, Benjamin, we're going to carry you to the
doctor.
To the doctor, to the ranger station, wherever we're going. It may also be that as that part of the body is warming up and blood is now coming back into the area of the body, it might hurt quite a bit. We've all experienced brain freeze, or probably most of us have experienced brain freeze, where we eat something or drink something really cold and it kind of shocks our head and then it hurts. You eat the ice cream and then it hurts. That's that warm blood entering back into that area. So his feet are going to probably hurt quite a bit. That's okay. Like I said, those warning signals, that pain was shut off. Now it's turning back on. This is a good sign. It's just going to be uncomfortable.
Okay. And the other one we're going to cover is hypothermia.
All right.
And that's a Nice, cool word you might have heard before, and we'll get into what that means.
Cool word. Nice.
When a person's body continues to lose heat over a long period of time, the blood supply is reduced not only to the hands and feet, but to the rest of the body as well, including the brain. This condition is called hypothermia. Hypo means below normal. Thermia means temperature or heat. So this is like we've got frostbite, and then we still couldn't get inside and warm up, and it's gotten worse, and now we're at hypothermia. So a person with hypothermia may be confused and not able to think clearly. For example, he might try to take off a warm coat because it feels heavy. He might want to lie down and sleep in the cold. Be clumsy or have trouble walking, speak slowly or be hard to understand, shiver constantly and violently. Air temperature does not have to be below freezing for a person to get hypothermia. A lightly dressed person caught in a cold, windy rainstorm, or anyone who is not dressed warmly enough for cool weather can lose enough body heat to get hypothermia. Wind, rain, hunger, and exhaustion increase the risk. So when you're outside in cool or cold weather, you can prevent hypothermia by wearing enough clothing to keep yourself warm and dry, eating plenty of food for energy, and drinking lots of fluids. In cool and cold water, the body temperature of a swimmer drops steadily. So when a swimmer gets cold, he should get out of the water and cover up or exercise to get warm. Uncontrollable shivering is a sign of the beginning of hypothermia. Okay, so situation, a person is suffering from hypothermia. Get the person into a warm place. Take off any wet clothes and get the person into warm, dry clothes. Put the person under warm covers or into a warm sleeping bag. If hypothermia is far advanced, the person's body may be too cold to warm up by itself. In this case, use any way you can to gently increase the person's body heat. If no other source of heat is available, a rescuer can get under the covers with the person to use his body heat to warm the person suffering from hypothermia. An animal, like a dog, can also be put under the covers to help warm him up. Okay, yeah.
Oh, Benjamin. And to clarify one point, it is possible to get hypothermia without getting frostbite first.
Yes.
Frostbite is when it's an exterior part of the body, your fingers, your toes, nose, ears. Those are the most commonly frostbitten areas because they're most sticking out, they're the farthest out in your body. But it's entirely possible to get hypothermia without those, like let's say you've got warm gloves on, your head's covered, but just your body's too cold. Yeah.
Okay, Benjamin. He's having a tough time. So he's just come in. James and I've just found him and he cannot stop shivering.
I want to build this fort. I don't care that it's snowing.
Okay, Benjamin, we're going to go inside, man, okay?
Okay.
So we're going in right now. So we're warm. He's put it right next to the fire. And his clothes, he's been out. It's been snowing. And now the snow has melted and these clothes are wet. So we're going to take all these off and get him wrapped up.
Hey, it's my coat.
Yeah. And ideally, this would be some sort of a sleeping bag or big. This is a perfect size coat for this situation because it covers his whole body. It's nice and warm in here. So you want something big like that, like a sleeping bag. Okay. And let's say this is pretty far advanced. So Benjamin's body is too cold to warm itself back up. So James and I are going to lie down next to him and use our body heat to spread it to him. And like it says, if you have a dog, get the dog in the sleeping bag with the person. Yeah, that would be a great thing to do for them.
Yep.
That heat would really help them.
Okay.
Okay. So that's hypothermia.
And get medical attention.
Yes.
Yeah. As soon as Benjamin comes in the door, like, I'm going to help him out. Remy's going to call 911 or the other way around. Or the appropriate emergency number in your country. All right.
Okay.
You're a trooper, Benjamin. All right, let's get into some of the Q&A here. Okay, we're gonna catch back up here.
Can you get frostbite by going to Antarctica? Yeah, that's one way to do it. That's not the only way, but I'm sure that would be a very effective one. But the people who go down there also have really nice clothes that they use to keep them warm.
Yes, they prepare really, really well before they go to Antarctica.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Adam asks, why should you not put the fingers or toes in hot water?
Okay. Well, to be perfectly honest, I don't know exactly what happens inside the body, but I know when you lose the blood flow and you lose that feeling and all that in your body parts and they get so cold, the hot water, if it's too hot, it can damage them because there's no blood in there, as from my understanding. I couldn't tell you exactly what happens, physically, but it damages the body rather than helps repair it when the water's too hot.
Right.
Is what happens.
Or it might damage it because again, those signals of pain aren't happening in that body part right then. So let's say it's too hot for this person. It's actually starting to burn them. They wouldn't particularly be able to know that right away.
Right.
They would find out afterwards, like, I burned my toes. If you get really bad frostbite, will the body part have to get amputated? Sophie, good question.
That's a heavy one.
I'm going to let you answer that one.
Yeah, I will answer that. The answer is probably yes, because that's really, really bad. That's basically to the point where it's frozen off completely. And yeah, sorry, the answer is yes, and I'm sorry to say that. But typically, if you're ever in a situation where you may get frostbite, you most likely will be aware of it, and you should be prepared for that situation. So it'd be doubtful that you would ever get to the point where you would need to amputate anything.
Right.
Yeah.
If it does happen that body part is too damaged, too frozen, the doctor would amputate it in order to preserve your overall health. Right. What's happening with frostbite is, we've all seen like an ice cube tray. You put water in the ice cube tray, you put it in the freezer. The ice cubes are bigger when you take them out than they were when they were still thawed. Water expands when it freezes. There's water in all of our cells. And when the water in the cell freezes, it expands and it can pop the cell. It will kill the cell. That's what's going on with frostbite, is those cells are dead. And, hopefully it's just on the outside of the skin at first. But if it's really cold and it's not treated and warmed up properly, then that cold can continue to go in. This is kind of all of this is kind of a tough topic to discuss. None of us like being injured. None of us like being hurt, but it happens. So hopefully, we've been able to give you some tools here to lessen the severity of those injuries. Alette is asking, is Benjamin's eye better? Yes, we got Benjamin to a doctor yesterday. For those of you who weren't here yesterday, Benjamin got something in his eye that he couldn't get out. And so we got him to the doctor. We decided everything we've done to Benjamin, we decided to leave on here because we decided to. I think it looks cool. All right, what is the science behind why humans shiver? Ariana, yes. All right. Take your hands, put them together, rub them. You're feeling heat. Maybe not a ton of heat, but a little bit of heat. That heat is from friction. If you're shivering, if you're moving, motion is energy. And you're doing this, if you're moving, you're gonna get more warm. You're gonna have more warmth going on than if you weren't moving around. Two people can be sitting in the same room, and if I'm just sitting here, and Rebby's running back and forth, he's gonna feel really hot. He's gonna be like, open a window. And I'm gonna be like, no, I'm gonna put my coat on. It's cold in here. He's generating energy within his body. That's what's going on with shivering. Can animals get hypothermia? Emmett, I think yes, especially mammals, because we're mammals. We're operating off of the same basic science as other mammals, other animals, but those that live in cold climates, they're adapted to that. They have those thick fur coats, and polar bears, don't get hypothermia in the polar waters because they've got that thick coat, they've got that thick insulation. Yeah. We don't. This is not adapted for Arctic exploring, which is why we need to have, coats and boots and hot chocolate, especially hot chocolate. Why does Benjamin like forts so much? You got poison ivy and cuts and now frostbite and hypothermia. My goodness, he is determined. He's very determined. hopefully he learns from this. Isaiah, can you use hot towels to help, or is that going to make it worse? Okay, so maybe not a hot towel, but a warm towel. Yeah, just like water is going to take heat away from your body quicker. Sorry, cold water will take heat away from your body quicker. Warm water and hot water will get heat into your body quicker. So again, you don't want it hot, but like a nice, gentle, warm temperature that's like body heat. Like if you put your hand in the water and it feels almost exactly the same, and it's what's called lukewarm, that'll be great. You can get them in the tub there and get water, heat into their body through the water. Okay, I think Jocelyn asked why, and that might be Nora in there. So hello. Why should it be warm and not hot? I think we've covered that. Milo asked, what if there are no warm things around? The good news is if you're with someone who's experiencing a cold emergency, there's always something warm around. It's yourself. If Remy was having like real problems and all we had was like, one coat and just me and Remy, we are, I'm going to huddle up to him. I'm going to lend him my body heat. Adam asks, is there something called hyperthermia? I've heard that's where you get too hot. Yes, we didn't really talk about that. We did talk about heat stroke and stuff like that, but hyper means like a lot of or more than, and hypo means below normal. So hypo, below, hyper, above, like hyperactive. I'm above normal activity. I am running around this room. Okay, we have time for a few more questions, and then we're gonna wrap it up for today. It took longer to go through this stuff than I thought, but I'm glad that we took that time because if any of these things happen, we all will visit warm locations. We all will visit cold locations. Now I hope that we're all a bit more prepared for these. Okay. I can make myself shiver. How? Yeah, so you can do it on command. You can just kind of get your body moving a little bit like that, and you'll start to feel warm. You'll be, ooh, it's a bit of a workout. And then sometimes it happens outside of your control. Your body is taken over. Your body's like, no, I'm going to shiver because I'm cold. That's a sign from your body that you should pay attention to. Can you use a tent? Yep, tents will give you, it might not be perfect and it might not feel like a sauna in there. It might not be 100 degrees, but it's definitely going to be warmer than outside, and it's going to block the wind. All right. So we are pretty much out of time here. Thank you guys so much for joining us for these last 3 webinars, this and the last 2 days. There's going to be news coming in the next probably couple of days about webinars throughout next week. So keep an eye on your emails, and as soon as the news is available, it will also be put up at delphian.org. Yeah, I guess that's all there is to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.